The winner got all her love, and at last I, Eddie Hansen, was invited to her apartment. During a dinner there, she told me that I was the winner. It had been a rough game between Elliot Robertson and me before our dream girl, Linda, made her final choice. Elliot and I came from different clubs and had signed up at the same time to the local soccer team after it had climbed up to the first division. Both of us did well and got some fame as the new soccer stars in our Scandinavian town. We were singles and enjoyed the pleasure soccer stars got from the local girls until Elliot and I met Linda. It happened one day at a small cafe where Linda had a temporary job as a waitress while she was searching for a hairdresser job. Both of us began to flirt with her, and within a short time, both of us had even tried to get a date. She refused to choose one of us, and as neither intended to give her up, the three of us usually went out together. Indeed, a silly game, but she was a very pretty woman, well worth a try. She was fair to both of us, which meant that neither of us got into her panties before she had dumped one of us. Both Elliot and I could rather easily have found some other girl as beautiful as Linda, but our relationship had developed into a stupid chicken race which neither of us wanted to lose. It was a hard game to play because Linda found it exciting and did her best to get it to last a little longer than necessary. However, after a while, I began to understand that Elliot was leading the game when I heard the rumors that a local illegal bookie had opened betting about Linda's choice. The once-in-a-time equal odds had turned out not to be funny news for me. Even Elliot had heard about the bookie and the odds indicating him as the expected winner. He suspected that the bookie had gotten some kind of inside information from Linda's friends. When even Linda's best friend had whispered the good news in his ear, he had phoned the bookie and staked big money. Even with low odds, it would give him a nice and totally safe profit. During our competition, Elliot and I had lost the main part of our once-in-a-time good friendship, and he couldn't resist the temptation to tease me for his expected victory about Linda. Elliot went so far in his bragging that he promised to give me a video showing how she performs all the nasty tricks he would train her to do for his pleasures. He even wanted to celebrate his victory with a hot party at a mate's summer house. Of course, I wasn't invited, but a very sexy-looking Brazilian stripper was, though booze would be flooding in large quantities. Nothing serious was to be happening until the sexy stripper did her act. People whom I know that were there told me that she was great, so great, indeed, that every man had gotten a hard-on during the show. This had gotten one of the attending girlfriends humiliated and shouting, "What the hell has she got that I don't have?" She had run to the stage and begun stripping, immediately followed by several of the other girls. Very soon, even the few remaining girls had joined them, stripping on the stage. Nobody could blame the crowd of horny and boozed young men when even they began to throw off their clothes. The guy who owned the house got a great idea. He removed the main fuse and shouted, "Let's have a happy 15 minutes in the dark." The crowd replied, "Yes, yes, yes." So began the so far most famous orgy in our Scandinavian town. The result wouldn't have been anything other than some funny memories of unknown sex partners in the dark for some of the participants if Greg Jensen had not been there. Greg was hired to videotape the stripper and party as a gift to Elliot. Nobody cared about him being there, and during the happy 15 minutes, nobody had wasted as much as a single second by thinking about him. Greg had an expensive video camera with infrared light and the capacity to tape in almost total darkness, which he did. I didn't know him, had never met him, but for some reason, he liked me better than Elliot and had put some good money on me in the bet. When Greg saw Elliot being screwed on the floor by a big, tit blonde with a bit scandalous reputation, poor Greg did only what many others would have done in an equal situation. He made a good video which turned his expected lost money into a fair profit. Of course, it was a bit nasty thing of him to give Linda a copy of the infamous tape, which caused her to suggest to Elliot that he'd take a hike to a very hot place. Elliot threatened to sue Greg, which he never did, though. I was totally innocent of the whole mess, but Elliot accused me of losing his money in Linda's cherry, which she, in fact, had already given away several years ago. He even threatened to get revenge on me by and by. He was really a bad loser indeed. He even tried refusing to pay the bookie until one of the bookie's nasty friends paid him a polite visit, which changed his mind to my great relief. Elliot's contract was bought by one of the big soccer teams, and he left the town rather soon after the party. So, we had no connection after that. A few years later, I heard some rumors about his marriage and thought, good for him. I had invested my soccer money in a nice house where Linda and I moved in together. It was her suggestion that we wait with the wedding until we've been living together for 10 years and have a really big wedding then. There was nothing strange about that. Many people, about 50% of the couples here, are living together unmarried. She had a funny idea that married couples took each other for granted and therefore lost the sparks between them. I didn't object because I was happy to share my bed with her, with or without golden rings on our fingers. It didn't matter for me. We even had 2 nice kids, 4 and 6 years old today. Besides playing on the local soccer team, I had continued my studies to become an accountant and even had a part-time job in an accounting company. When I gave up the soccer about 5 years after Linda and I became a couple, a partner, and I opened our own accounting business. We made the right choice at the right time, which in a short time gave us a fair profit. Now it was mine and Linda's 9th year living together. In my opinion, we still had a good relationship, though there were some small quarrels now and then, and the passion wasn't what it was when we first moved together. But how many couples can say that nothing will be different after 10 years? In fact, it was 9 years and 10 months, with the big wedding only about 2 months ahead. Linda and her mother had been taking care of everything. They had already booked an old church, a romantic inn for the party, a band, and a classic, over 50-year-old Bentley, a honeymoon trip to Bali, and many other things. When they hit the fan, it hit me as lightning from a clear blue sky. One Thursday evening after work, I was sitting in the kitchen together with the children when Linda rushed in and began shouting, "How in the hell could you do that to me?" "Do what?" "Don't play stupid." "Why in the hell did you do that at your damn course?" "Do what?" "Could you please calm down and tell me what I supposed to have done? Don't pretend to be innocent. Can't you at least be a man and confess?" "Confess what? Who in the hell is she now?" I had had enough and shouted back, showed up with that in front of the children. "Are you on some damn drug? Calm down and tell me what the hell this is about when the children are sleeping." Instead of saying anything to me, she went to our bedroom and stayed there the whole evening. When I came in there after giving the kids some supper and got them into their beds, watching some programs on TV, she told me, "From now on, you were sleeping in the guest room. Get your things and go there." "Hell no, I won't go. It is your farce, and if you don't want to share the bed with me, feel free to sleep somewhere else." She left without a word. Not much was said the next morning. I asked her, "Could you please tell me what's the matter with you yesterday?" Her only reply was, "We'll talk tonight. My parents will take the kids for the weekend." On Friday evening, we had a short version of our usual family fun with the kids, and to my pleasure, the both of us pretended to act in a normal manner until Linda took them to her parents. When she returned, she had takeaway from a new Italian restaurant with her, and I opened a bottle of wine. After eating for a while with small talk about the kids, she asked me, "Why have you cheated me?" "Cheated? I've never cheated you." "Yes, you have. I have got evidence." "When and where could you please show me that so-called evidence? Do you want to marry me or skip the wedding? I love you and have been looking forward to this wedding for 10 years, but it is up to you only if you will stop this farce. I can swear that I'm innocent of your accusation. It doesn't matter when and where the image and cheating was supposed to happen. It was at your latest tax information class. For heaven's sake, we were 28 men and 2 women who had their husbands with them there. Could you be kind and ask somebody or rather everybody who was there before you were going to destroy everything we have built up together during 10 years? A clever attempt, but not clever enough to convince me. Please, at least tell me who's put that crap in your head. It must be somebody who hates me or envies our wedding." I can't remember if she replied. The last thing I remember from that evening was feeling tired and Linda helping me to the bedroom. I woke up sometimes Saturday morning in my bed with a terrible headache and pain in my belly. My mouth was dry, and I couldn't move either my arms or my feet. To my fear, I noted that I was lying diagonally on our bed with my wrists and ankles tied and bound to the bed legs, which were the only possible way to fasten the knots. The pain in the belly got worse, and before I had thought about what to do, I puked. I succeeded in turning my head so everything got to Linda's side of our new, very expensive bed. After resting a few minutes, calming down, and thinking about how to act, I shouted, "Linda!" And she came into the room. During my army service, I had gotten some training in how to act in hostage situations and knew that the main rule is to calm down and try to get a dialogue going. Therefore, I began with asking her, "I have a terrible headache. Could you please give me water and an aspirin?" She got a fearful look on her face when she saw what had happened to the new bed and left the room but returned with an aspirin and a bottle of water. While cleaning up the worst of the mess, she said, "The friend of ours who witnessed your cheating is here, and I'll thank him for the information by giving him some sex as my revenge for your cheating. When we even, I promise to be a loving, faithful wife. Do you really understand what you're doing? Do you really want to skip the wedding?" She replied, "You'll marry me if you love me. Otherwise, my friend has promised to replace you." "Who is he? Are you really sure that he knows me or ever been at the course? Tell me who he is, and let me talk to him, and I'll show you that he is only trying a dirty trick for getting you laid. You will see him. We have a TV camera in the spare room, and you will see everything on this monitor if you had confessed yesterday. I would have gotten my revenge at a hotel without telling you anything about it. Don't blame me. You denied it and preferred it this way." Now I noted a color monitor on the nightstand, obviously with a cordless connection to a TV camera in the spare room. It showed the empty bed there. "Where did you get this expensive equipment? Your insane farce seems to be well planned in advance. My friend has rented it. Please calm down and understand that he must be somebody who hates me or us like hell and doesn't want to see us married. Can't you see that you were in his trap? Why this far as if you really love him more than me and want to marry him instead of me? You are a free woman and can leave me any time you want without making me hate you like hell. I like him very much, but I don't love him as much as I love you. I really hope that you love me and will forgive me as I will forgive you when we are even. We will never be even if you don't stop this at once. If you really love me, please let's take a time out for a week and go and see everybody who was on the course and ask what he or she saw there. If one of them agrees with your lover, I promise to let you screw him as much as you want before the wedding. Please, Linda, please don't throw away our 10 happy years and cancel our wedding. Nice talk, but I'm still 100% convinced about your cheating, and now it is too late for any new deals." She had not weakened a single millimeter, and I understood that soft talk was for deaf ears and tried a new tactic. I told her with a hard voice, "Linda, be sane and understand that if you screw that a-hole here in my house, I'll track him down and beat the crap out of him. You'll screw up our wedding, and we'll be thrown out from my house this very day and never get back in here. You can be sure that I will never forgive you for doing such a dirty, shameless thing to me. Never in hell. Do you understand what I am telling you? Be sensible and stop this if you love me, or keep going if you want your bum thrown out of this house today, but don't complain afterwards." Now even she had got angry and shouted, "You will see." Then she slapped me hard in my face, put silver tape over my mouth, and went out of the bedroom. Hopefully, I had put some doubts in her mind because the bed in the spare room remained empty, and I heard voices which sounded like arguing. But I lost my hope when I looked at the monitor. The camera was in our spare bedroom where we had put our old double bed when we bought the new, very expensive one in which I was lying helpless. Then Linda came into the picture, stark naked, and a few seconds later was followed by a naked man with an Elvis Presley rubber mask covering his face. I couldn't recognize him. Linda began to speak, "Now it is your turn to be cheated. Does it feel good? Then she told Elvis to lie down and began to have sex with him. After a while, she shouted, "That feels good. Revenge is really sweet." Thereafter, Elvis began to do her doggy style. He did it without a condom, but that wasn't my problem because I had no intentions of screwing Linda ever again. Never in hell. To my great disappointment, Elvis had remained silent the whole time, obviously afraid that I would recognize his voice. I had seen enough and began to work at getting free. I understood that if I panicked, it would make the knots worse, and decided to think first. It didn't take me many seconds to find out how to do it. The weak point was the tie which held my bound wrist to the bed leg. A tie is made of two parts, and on this cheap tie made of some strange thin fabric, the sewing hopefully was the weak point. I had bought it during a holiday trip in Thailand only for its bright colors, a funny gimmick at some party, but Linda had never allowed me to use it. She understood that I would throw away everything she had used to tie me, and therefore only chose ties she disliked. On the monitor, I could see and hear Linda screaming about how good her lover was. They could hardly have heard the noise when I, using all my strength, succeeded in dragging off the tie between my wrists and the bed leg. The first thing I did was to take off the tape over my mouth. Thereafter, it was an easy game to pick up my key ring from my left pocket. In the ring, I had a mini model of a Swiss Army knife which I got as a gift from a satisfied customer a few years ago. Now I thanked him in my mind for paying the extra for getting the best quality. I succeeded in pulling out the blade, put the knife in my mouth, and began the tie which held my wrists. It took some time even with the sharp knife to cut me free, but I did it. Thereafter, it was no problem to cut off the tie that held my ankles. I was free. Linda was now speaking to the camera. "Please understand that I'm doing this only because I love you so much. I'm going to screw him only one more time before he will leave our house, and we are even and can continue with her life." What a silly witch. Did she really believe that there was anything else than disgust between us any longer? I waited while she laid back and they began to screw in missionary position, a perfect time for my next step in this sad drama. I resisted the temptation to use a weapon of any kind because it could end an uncontrolled mess, but I took a pair of gloves from the entrance cupboard, put them on, and sneaked up to the guest room on the second floor. The door was closed, so I stood behind it and listened to their moans and groans before I took a deep breath, opened the door, and rushed into the room screaming, "You'll burn in hell." It took them by total surprise, and Elvis didn't have a chance to react before I had hit him with several hard punches, and he lay still over Linda, who began screaming, "Don't kill him, no, 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 don't kill him." I had no such intentions, but I continued to hit the Elvis mask until I was sure he was knocked out for a while, and then I dragged the mask off his face and found out that the damn a-hole was my old friend Elliot, who had succeeded in canceling mine and Linda's wedding. Linda continued to scream, and I shouted to her, "Shut up, witch, get dressed and get your spoiled body out from my house." She got a terrified look in her face but stopped the screaming and began to cry. Elliot had begun to groan, so I dragged him to the floor where I gave him several hard kicks between his legs until he lost consciousness again. Then I took his arms and dragged him down the stairs and out to the garden where I threw him in a bed of roses. He had parked his silver metallic Audi A6 all-road on my driveway. I got a hammer from my garage and smashed all glass on the Audi and scratched "Pimp" on the front doors. I didn't know or care how this terrible day would end for me, but one thing was for sure, even if Elliot lived to 100 years, he would never forget his Saturday morning screw with Linda. Then I went back to the spare bedroom. A still naked Linda sat crying on the bed, and I told her, "Get dressed and piss off from my house. Your belongings will be out on the lawn during the day, and I'll call your dad when he can begin to take them away." She tried to say something about showering, but I shouted, "Shut up and get dressed. No damn shower for you in my house. Get moving." I found Elliot's clothes with his wallet and car keys. I investigated his wallet and found his business cards. I took one card and threw the wallet to the pile of his clothes and told Linda, "Lover boy lies naked in the bed of roses. Get the creep dressed and away from my property before I change my mind, and will give him one more lesson." She sobbed, "Oh holy Lord, please forgive me," and she had a look of fear on her face when she got quickly dressed in jeans and a t-shirt and took Elliot's belongings and rushed out to him with them. I went down to the kitchen, took the cordless phone, and rang the home number on Elliot's card. A female voice replied, "Hi, Law. You are Elliot's wife, I presume?" "Yes, who is asking?" "My name is Eddie Hansen, and I used to be a friend of his until 10 years ago. In fact, we were even competitors for the same girl. I've been living with her for 9 years and was expecting to marry her within 3 months, but I regret to tell you that Elliot was here today and changed my plans." "I don't understand." "It's why I rang you, Law. Elliot and my girlfriend Linda drugged me, tied me to my bed, and screwed before a camera so I could see them on a monitor in my room when I lay there tied to the bed. But I was lucky enough to get loose and regret to say that both Elliot and his car got a little damaged when I showed him away from my property. I told her everything she wanted to know and asked her where Elliot had been during the days I was supposed to been cheating during the course. Linda had come back to the house while I talked with Law. I told her, 'Good news for you, Linda. That call was to Elliot's wife. She told me that he was at home more than 600 kilometers from the course where you silly 304 believe he saw me cheating. Screwing you wasn't his first cheating, so Law will divorce him now that she's got me as a witness. Elliot is all yours now, Linda.' She screamed, 'Do you know what you did to Elliot? You must let him shower and clean the wounds from the roses. Get his cheating bum off my property before I get mad.' Then she remembered her errand and told me, 'Elliot demands his camera and monitor.' I took my hammer, rushed up to the spare room, smashed his camera, broke the tripod, and rushed to the bedroom where I smashed the monitor. Then I went out and threw them into the back seat in his car through the broken glass and told him to piss off while he still could do that. When he began to threaten me with police and lawyers, I gave his car an extra hard hit with the hammer, and off he went in a hurry. Back in the house, Linda sobbed, 'Oh holy Lord, what have I done? Screwed up your old family and got a new boyfriend. He was your first choice 10 years ago, and now he is yours. Don't complain. You got what you wanted. He promised to use you as a free hooker than if you had chosen him instead of me.' Then I took Linda's hand, took off her engagement ring, and gave her mine and told her, 'That's it. I'll call your dad and ask him to rent a van and get your belongings as soon as I get them out of the house. You can take almost everything in the house except the soiled beds, which will be destroyed.' 'What are you going to tell my parents?' 'Not much, only the truth,' she sobbed and said, 'Please try to forgive me. We must talk when you have calmed down so we can talk. Yes, we have 2 children to talk about if they are mine. I'm sure your mom will take care of them a few days until the worst problems are solved.' Then she left my house, and our relationship. I ran after her to the driveway and said, 'Your key to the house, please.' She gave it to me and left. I rang Linda's parents, talked to my kids, and told Linda's dad to hire a van to come here and get her belongings because we had split up. When he asked why we did it, I told him the same story I had told Law a few minutes later. Linda's mother rang me and she was in shock about the cancelled wedding and begged us to calm down before we did anything stupid. I could only tell her that I was very sorry but could see no way out of the mess Linda had created. I told her shocked mom that Linda expected her lover had to replace me at the wedding. A slight problem was that his divorce would take at least 6 months. It was the worst day in my life, but I had much work to do, so I rang 6 of my friends. 4 of them were in position to help me, and one of them came by a supermarket where he bought a pile of cardboard boxes. Even 2 wives came with their men and began to pack the boxes. When the beds from the spare room and master bedroom were out on the lawn, I took my electric chainsaw and cut them to pieces. I didn't care a bit that the bed in the master bedroom was almost new and very expensive since Linda had given Elliot coffee at the kitchen table before they began their show. I even cut the table and kitchen chairs to pieces. I stored my clothes, a few personal belongings, and everything from the children's room in the garage. The gang worked hard, and about 4 o'clock, the house was emptied. I rang Linda's father and told him that the house was emptied and Linda could take everything on the lawn and what was left on Monday evening would go to the city dump. He told me that he had hired a van and 2 friends to help him. I left with my friends and invited them for a barbecue which was held at my best friend's house where I stayed overnight. On Monday morning, Marie, my secretary, noted at once that I had serious problems and asked me with a fearful look in her face what had happened to me during the weekend. I told her the truth. She got a shock and was silent for a minute before she asked where I was living for the time being. I told her the truth that my friends had offered me their spare bedroom, but I intended to find some kind of place of my own during the day. Marie had a suggestion. Her newly divorced sister, Anna, had a nice guest room with a small kitchen above the garage which I probably could rent until I found something more permanent. Marie knew that Anna, a nurse at the main hospital, had worked on Sunday and was at home. Marie called her, and Anna was interested in her suggestion. Marie and I went there at once. The room was much better than I expected. The sister was easygoing and a very beautiful woman, and we had a deal within a few minutes. Soon afterwards, I went to a real estate broker and put the house up for sale. I took the broker to the house to take pictures. Linda's father had hauled away everything, and the neighbor who was hired to take away what remained of the beds, table, and the chairs had done his job and he got his payment. Back at the office, Marie told me that Linda had rang several times. I promised to take her next call, which came only 10 minutes later. First came all the expected about how sorry she was and it was the most stupid thing she had done in her whole life when she believed everything that Elliot told her. You wanted to believe him because you wanted to screw him. You were not stupid, and by using a very small part of your common sense, you ought to have known that he lied about me. The truth is that he wanted to get even with me because he lost a lot of money when you choose me. He hated me. It doesn't matter that it was he himself who screwed up your contest. It's because he wanted to destroy our wedding plans, and you had no doubts about helping him. Do you really believe that he for one single second thought that I would marry a damn 304 who humiliated me in that cruel way? He knew me better that's for sure. Oh my God, can you ever forgive me for being such a fool? Have you screwed him every time he's been back in town? His wife will dump him, so feel free to marry that a-hole and be sure that you will be cheated. I regret to say that I never did that to you. Today I really regret all those chances I skipped during the years. Linda understood that it wasn't the right time to talk about our broken relationship and asked me about our economic matters. I told her that I had taken 50% from our joint account, and that was all we had to share. She could keep her car, her own private account, and everything she had collected on the lawn. She asked me with a worried voice, how about the house and the stocks? My private property, and I'm giving nothing to you. You would have been a wealthy hooker if you had done your acts after the wedding. You paid a high price for Elliot's meat, and I hope you think it was worth that. She hung up, and when her father rang me after a few minutes, I told him that according to the laws of this country, she had gotten more than her legal share and given the present circumstances. I felt it was impossible for me to give her anything further than her legal right because it would have felt like a reward for what she had done to me. Monday evening, Anna invited me into her house for a cup of coffee and some small talk. In fact, we talked the whole evening. Anna told me that her ex had cheated on her with a fellow worker. She had found a 12-pack of condoms in his suitcase when he was on his way to a 5-day trade show and conference trip abroad. He had gotten totally mad, hit her hard, and bragged about his affair with a married fellow worker. 2 divorces was the final price for the 12-pack of condoms in his suitcase. After some quarreling, they had come to an agreement for shared custody of their 10-year-old daughter, Jennifer, who was with her ex that week. I told Anna my story, and she could hardly believe how Linda could act in such a stupid way. Though it was a part of Anna's job to understand human behavior, after many questions, she dismissed all thoughts about Elliot blackmailing Linda. Anna found it impossible to find a simple explanation for why a clever woman like Linda did what she did. Probably she felt that the big wedding had turned to her mother's show and didn't feel comfortable with it, perhaps because she had some doubts about whether it still was real love between us after so many years. If she missed the hot passion from the first years, after thinking about it, Anna could only guess that from time to time, Linda had some greener grass on the other side of the fence, thinking and sometimes even doubting if she really had chosen the right man 10 years ago. Obviously, Elliot had connected her at the right time for performing his nasty intentions, catching her in a doubting frame of mind, and as a clever con man, he had put a number of pure lies in her head about how much he had missed her in all those 10 years. Elliot must have been very convincing when they met, because she didn't make any attempts to check his stories, though it would have been very easy for her to find out that most of his stories were pure fiction. Elliot's story about my cheating had given her, at least in her mind, a valid reason to get the sex with him she dreamt about in those 10 years. Elliot had probably worked out a plan and succeeded in convincing her that I would never dump her because she would be within her rights to get even, and we would be happy again after that. Of course, that was only the best answers we could imagine that evening. Anna understood me when I told her that I could never sleep in my house again. Within a short time, Anna and I developed a good relationship and began to do small favors for each other. She took care of my laundry, and I did the main jobs in her garden. Sometimes I even took Jennifer to her soccer training, and soon the beautiful female trainer had begun to use me as some kind of voluntary assistant, which caused some jokes from Anna. Could she be jealous? To our great pleasure, Jennifer and I became friends, and so did Anna, Jennifer, and my kids. I felt that Anna was much more than a hostess when my kids visited, and I think she felt the same, because I could note a trace of relief when she asked me if I had found a new house and I said no. No doubt I had to do something, but I didn't dare take the first step. One day, Marie asked me to tell her what I really felt about Anna, and I replied that her ex must have been the most stupid man in our town when he cheated on such a lovely wife. Marie started laughing and told me that Anna had said the same words about Linda. Then she looked me in my eyes and said, "For heaven's sake, do something before it is too late." I did. Jennifer was at her dad's for a week, so it was perfect timing. I succeeded in booking a table at a popular restaurant I knew had a good band this evening. On the way home, I bought a large red rose, took it with me, and rang Linda's bell. When she opened the door, I gave her the rose and told her that it was my turn to treat her to a meal and asked if she would join me tonight. If so, I would pick her up at 8 o'clock. She said it was a happy surprise for her, but then she shook her head and said, "I'm so sorry, very sorry indeed, but a doctor has invited me out tonight." What could I say? I said, "Maybe some other time." "Yes, of course. I rather hope many times. Cheer up, my friend, and see the matter from the bright side. The doctor is a 55-year-old married woman who wants me to help her in a research project, and I would love to have a date with you. Please wait for me here in the house, and we can have a nightcap together when I'm back." Anna was back by 11:30. She made 2 delicious crab sandwiches and opened a bottle of her best white wine. It was very romantic meal in candlelight with soft music. The evening could only end in one way. Both of us understood that anything else was out of question. Naked in her bed, we got involved in tender lovemaking during the main part of the night. It was a really great night for both of us. By morning, she gave me a very good breakfast in bed before she joined me for an intensive morning sex. I noted by her behavior that she wanted to say something, and when I came out from the shower, she smiled and asked, "Yes or no?" What could I say? What was right? I replied, "Your choice. What's best for you is best for me. Okay, you're moving into the house today." I had no objections, and within a few minutes, we were moving my clothes and a few other things into her house. Later on that day, we went to the shopping center together where I bought her 24 red roses. When Jennifer came home Sunday evening, saw the roses in the living room, and the smiles in our faces, she shouted, "You two are together now, are you?" When we agreed, she hugged us both and told us that she was very happy for that. That was the start of a new happy family. In the beginning of our separation, Linda felt very humiliated and made it very difficult for me to see the children because I hadn't given her much more than her very small legal assets in the separation and had DNA tested the children. However, the test showed that I was the father, and after Linda had calmed down, we began to cooperate on raising our children. While waiting for our daughter at the hospital after a bicycle accident, Linda told me about having lunch with Elliot 2 years earlier, but she denied any cheating then and stated that he had begun to call and email her at her job 2 weeks before he came to town for conning her. I told her that Law and I had talked several times. She had filed for divorce and thrown Elliot out of their house, which always had been recorded as her private property. Linda said she had neither seen him nor heard from him after she helped him away from my rose bed and had not wanted to do that either. She had been seriously depressed when she found out what easy prey she had been when he soiled her to get even with me for something I never did him. Elliot never dared to demand any compensation for the damaged car or TV equipment, nor did he contact the police. About a year after our separation, Linda met Fred, a nice guy who worked as a librarian. Within a few months, she moved in with him in his 3-room apartment. He had no kids of his own and took good care of Linda's and mine during Linda's weeks to keep them. It was Anna who rang him and suggested that Linda and Fred meet Anna and me at a restaurant to once and for all set the rules for the children. They would be simple rules that cooperate instead of compete with clothes, gifts, and events. Fred was an easygoing man, so we had no problems finding solutions to the actual matters with him. Linda was chilly but reasonable, so even we could solve the actual questions. And from now on, the children knew that they could not play one family against the other for getting advantages. 2 weeks later, we met Jennifer's dad and his new woman. Anna's ex couldn't hide how much he disliked Anna and my relationship, but thanks to his new spouse, we solved the questions with him. Anna and I are not married yet, but I'm sure that it is only a question of time. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.